Okay, class, in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and define some of the basics of credit cards. So let's go ahead and get started. So there are essentially two types of credit cards. One's called a revolving charge account, and then the other is called a charge account. And the difference is that revolving charge account, you don't need to pay off the entire bill at the end of the month. There's typically a minimum monthly payment that you need to pay in order to avoid certain fees by the credit card issuer. However, there's also a finance charge at the end of the month following any month the bill is not paid in full. So what that means is, let's say that you make charges this month and then next month you get the bill. If you don't pay that in full, then in the following month's bill, you're going to get assessed a finance charge. Now, with a charge card, this is when the entire bill has to be paid in full and no interest is charged. Okay, so most people have a revolving charge account. There are some people that still use a charge account, and American Express, for example, is an issuer that will provide a charge account, and the expectation is that it is paid in full. Okay, now, it's important to understand the Truth in Lending Act, and that is an act that protects you as the consumer if your card is either lost or stolen. Now, it is possible that you might be liable for up to $50, but you're not responsible for any charges if you notify the issuer that your card was lost or stolen. The act also requires all creditors to disclose key information about every credit card fee, and it has to be presented in a way that can be easily read by you as a consumer. In this way, you can compare the fees that a particular issuer gives you versus another issuer. And this information in this box here is actually called the Schumer box, and this is named after Senator Chuck Schumer, who sponsored this legislation. So as you can see, for example, one of the disclosures here is the percentage, the annual percentage rate, which in this case is 18.999%. There's also a balance transfer APR, 18.99%. There's also a cash advance APR. In this case is 19.5%. Now, one of the things that they also will disclose is that even though they give you the interest rate, they will let you know that it's based on the market. So if the prime rate increases, then this rate will also increase accordingly. Okay, other things that they also need to disclose is the penalty APR when it applies. And so in this case, it's going to be 30%. And the penalty will apply when you fail to make a minimum payment. Okay, so we talked just a minute ago about a revolving charge card, and as long as you pay the minimum balance, you won't be assessed a fee. But if you do fail to make the minimum payment, then this is the penalty that will take place. Okay, and then it'll tell you how to avoid paying interest on purchases. It'll also tell you if there's any minimum interest charge, and also they are required to disclose the tips from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they have to provide that link to you as well. Okay. The other piece of information they will also provide to you is any annual membership fee. Just be careful that even though issuers tell you that it's $0, sometimes it's $0 for the first year, and then they will assess you a $100 fee each year after that. Okay, and then also transaction fees. This is when you conduct a balance transfer or cash advance. They will assess you either a $5 or 3% of the amount of transfer in this case, or $10 or 5% of the amount of each transfer for cash advances. Okay, and then there's also penalty fees for late payment up to $20 if the balance is less than $100, and then up to $25 if the balance is $100 to less than $250, and then up to $35 if the balance is $250 or more. Okay, so every issuer assesses fees a little bit differently. The key thing is here that in this Schumer box, they are required to disclose that, so it's very clear to you. Okay, and then there's also the return payment fee, and then the return check fee. In this case, it's up to $35. Okay, now the other act you should be familiar with is the Fair Credit Billing Act, and this act protects you if there are any errors in your monthly statement. Okay, so if there are any errors or if you're disputing a particular charge, you do not have to pay that amount until the problem is resolved. Okay. Also, if you find yourself not able to meet payments required by the creditor, it's really important that you notify them immediately. People tend to want to shy away and not let the creditor know, but the more upfront you are, the more willing they're going to work with you. You may get in a situation where you lose a job or you've had some health issues and you're not able to pay the credit card. Contact them, explain to them what's going on, and they will work with you. Okay. It's also important to understand that the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act prevents creditors from harassing you or using unfair means to collect the amount owed. So in the past, before this act was in place, they would contact your employer, your family, your friends, whoever they needed to contact to put pressure on you to pay up. This act now prevents them from doing that. Okay. All right, so another type of plastic card that we are all familiar with now is called the debit card. Looks like a credit card, acts like a credit card. The only difference between a debit card and a credit card is that any charges that you make on the debit card comes directly from your account. So it's usually tied to a checking account. So if your funds are available for the charge, then the charge will go through. If you don't have enough funds, then the charges will not go through. Okay. And then the last thing is the Electronic Funds Transfer Act. It protects users, debit card users. So in your case, if you have a debit card, it'll protect you against unauthorized use of their cards. If there is an unauthorized use of your card, it's really important to contact your bank. And once you notify them, you will not be responsible for those fraudulent purchases made with your card because it was lost or stolen. So it's really important that you report that immediately, which also means that if you have a debit card, you should be keeping an eye on all transactions that are taking place. And I would recommend that you do this on a daily basis. Okay, so that is it for this particular lesson. Hopefully you've got a better feel for credit cards and debit cards. If any of this was unclear, please go back to the beginning of the recording and listen to it again. Thank you.